Whoa, Proop,
What? Who?
Ethan.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome everybody to episode 4 of the Proop N Murph Travoltathon. I'm Proop.
And I'm Murph.
He's really, really rad.
He met Proop's dad.
You'll know him from Greece.
He's only a Scientologist because the church have evidence that he's a homosexual and being gay is something that could have possibly ended his career in the 80s.
Allegedly. It's Proop N Murph's Travoltathon.
Old reliable.
What are we looking at today, Proop?
Well, we just watched Lucky Numbers. It's another film by same director as Michael, Nora Ephron. You can really tell it's the same style, same kind of vibe, but it's a very different film.
I think it's fair to say it doesn't have the same energy as Michael.
I think the best aspect about it is John Travolta.
Probably.
He's a pranks, renowned YouTube prank star.
All right, so do you want to give a brief plot synopsis?
Okay, here's a little primer for you.
Lucky Numbers is kind of a comedy of errors film. You've got Russ Richards, which is Travolta's character. He's in debt. He's looking for a quick way out of his financial situation because he wants to retain his status as the swankiest, coolest weatherman in history. He's got this kind of criminal friend who kind of runs this little kind of stripper club. They initially decide they're going to stage a robbery at his snowmobile place.
Yeah, he's a very famous weatherman, but he's obviously not very good at his job because he invests in a giant snowmobile company when there's forecast to be no snow.
The robbery doesn't work because someone at his snowmobile company calls the police.
We're calling the police!
So the fake robber demands £10,000 for bail. So he has to pull another trick. Phoebe Buffet from Friends is the lottery woman, and they decide that they are going to rig the lottery. This is why it's called Lucky Numbers, you see.
They're both pretty incompetent and everything goes wrong. The rest of the movie is them trying to cover up what happens, trying to get their money, and they slowly lose this money along the way. And then eventually it's just, forget the money. We need to pull ourselves out of this hole we've digging ourselves into.
Yeah, that's pretty much what this film is. It's a cookie cutter film.
Cookie cutter
film. The kind of direction that she went in Michael, where it was just kind of this whimsical, dreamlike, weird comedy kind of thing. That aspect of that film is not present here.
Yeah.
She's refined her style to be more normal, and as a result, it's not a great movie.
It's not in any sense. I see what you mean with the fact that it sort of seems Michael-like, with sort of the way the characters are written, but there's no comedy to it.
Lisa Games, renowned YouTube gamer.
You ready for the song Bingo Was His Name-O? Yeah! All right.
I want to say that the way this character looks is the most John Travolta looking Travolta in the Travolta so far. He's got picture with your dad energy to him. He's sort of got that semi-bald head. He's not quite at that Pitbull level, which I want to say happy birthday Pitbull when we're recording this today. I believe it is Pitbull's birthday.
Really?
So happy birthday
Pitbull.
Happy birthday Pitbull.
Happy birthday Pitbull. John Travolta's character is a complete blend of John Gotti, Michael, and Moose, because he's very autistic in this film. He's got all the status and criminality of John Gotti and also all the swagger of Michael.
I somewhat agree. I see what you mean. I feel like those three characters that you just mentioned are so different. The aspects of them live in all of us. Like in everyone, there's a little bit of John Gotti. There's a little bit of Moose.
The opening scene of this film is he's driving along with a big grin on his face. This is why I drew the comparison to The Fanatic, because that starts with him on his moped with a big grin. It's very strange to see that kind of grin, but it is very Travolta. And he's shown checking his hair in the rearview mirror, but he's just got kind of a buzz cut, a 3 all over.
I think maybe when they cast him, he had longer hair and then he shaved it.
I do think John Travolta's character in here is pretty funny. Just the way he is as Travolta is really the one redeeming factor about this film, in my opinion. His mannerisms, his goofy little face, his little smile, you know.
When we first see him, you kind of don't like him. He's like this smarmy sort of guy. He's obviously putting on this facade of being a nice person. You got this happy music playing where he's like, "Oh, I'm going to take a picture with your kid. How old are you? 37?" Constantly making these awful jokes and pulling these stupid Travolta faces.
Don't get too good looking, I'll be out of a job.
You warm up to him slightly in the middle. If we're plotting a graph of John Travolta likableness, that's my Travolta curve.
It's portraying him as this kind of rich, snobby guy, but it's done in a very goofy way that you're supposed to be laughing at, and he's not a blatant prick to people. He's clearly putting on this facade. He's clearly putting a lot of energy into upkeeping a persona, and that's kind of the essence of this character, is that he wants to maintain his persona, and I quite like that.
In a sense, it is sort of like Jekyll and Hyde, where in Victorian England, it is of utmost importance to maintain your reputation. Eventually, when people start dying, that's sort of like when Hyde hails down a storm of blows with ape-like fury onto that guy. So it's sort of, I don't know where I'm going with this.
It's also a bit like Lord of the Flies, the way it shows mankind's internal illness. Yeah, and it's also a bit like Macbeth, the way his ambition is his hamasha.
It's also in a way like Sing Song by Daljit Negra, because
the characters in this film do swear in all of the colours of Punjabi.
And John Travolta and Phoebe from Friends make love like they're rowing through Putney.
I do think, I just want to mention, John Travolta's character kind of reminds me of Truman from The Truman Show. The way he walks around and he's like, in case I don't see you, good morning, good evening, and good night. You know, that kind of thing, where it's that kind of facade, that false smile. He sees himself as a character. He's a presenter on a show, and he wants to maintain like a persona.
He is this guy that apparently everyone in the state knows, which I thought was quite weird, because weathermen aren't particularly famous people. Like, I could not name a single famous weatherman or weatherwoman.
The thing is, weathermen did used to have a bit more status back in the day. Being a weatherman was a lot more than it is today. There is some kind of charisma about weathermen, and I do think it's kind of been lost over the years. This is hearkening to a previous time. Again, this film is trying to be an older film than it is. Those kind of aspects of this film are supposed to be taken with a pinch of salt. It's done there to be a bit absurdist. The way he is a celebrity, the extent to which people adore him is exaggerated. His business with the snowmobiles makes no sense, but it works for the film because it's not supposed to be entirely realistic.
The rawest it gets.
Phoebe Buffay from Friends in this film, I can't remember what her character is called, so I'm just going to call her
Crystal, I believe.
Crystal. Well, Phoebe Buffay from Friends is basically, excuse my French, she's a slag. She's just having a lot of sex with all of the male characters, and she explicitly says, I like sex. I'm a progressive guy. I don't think there's anything wrong with a woman who likes a bit of sex. This character in this film, it's another stereotype. There's a lot of stereotypes in this film. It's just kind of stereotypical. A woman who's just going to sleep around, a woman who is very immoral and will just use sex to manipulate men. She just wants money.
It's a lot like how, when we talked about Michael, we were saying how most of the women in the story aren't there to be characters. And I think the case is also true with this, which, as I said in the Michael episode, is strange when you consider the fact it's written and directed by a woman. But I guess, like I said before, it's maybe part of that 80s energy where women are plot devices in every 80s film. I'm generalizing a lot here.
I'm both scared and aroused.
I like a good heist film. A heist is a surefire way to sort of create something fun. And I think that the heist aspects of this film are actually quite good. Setting up the heist and talking about how they're going to do it in the bar, I think is a very good scene. And those three characters bounce off each other quite well. The way they do the tension is quite good. Like, there's always scenes where you think they're just about to get caught, which is how that sort of film should be done. And they've got jazz music playing.
You like jazz?
I do like a bit of jazz here and there, especially in a heist movie. You make a good point there. I think, the heist aspects of this film are engaging.
This isn't remotely funny.
It just fails on the level of comedy, I think. It goes for black comedy. It goes for kind of a dark humor. It's the sense of humor I can see a lot of people having, but I just don't have. Do you know what I mean?
it maybe goes for sort of something like a Will Ferrell movie would do, where it's sort of got the dark, crude aspects to it, but most of the comedy arises from the main actor. I said, for this one, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do a laugh counter. And I laughed twice.
Not
The
great.
first one was at Travolta's face when he's pretending to introduce himself. His end game is to get a game show. So he's sat there in front of the TV and he's like pretending that he has his game show. So he's like, introducing Russ Richards.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's your host, Russ Richards.
And then he did a funny face afterwards. I can't even remember what the funny face is, but that made me laugh. And then the second thing was there's a character whose name is, what's his name?
Dale the Thug.
Dale the Thug, yeah. When he finally meets Dale, Dale says, my name's Dale. And then John Travolta goes, the Thug?
Dale. Yeah. The Thug?
You could feel the fear in his voice. And I thought the comedic timing there was actually quite good. So that was the second time I laughed. And that's it.
I had a couple of chuckles along the way, just kind of laughing at the film, really, not laughing with the film. It was harder to laugh at this film than something like Michael because, like in the way it underperforms, it's not significant enough to be shocking.
Well, I think it is shocking in one particular sense, and that is with Phoebe from Friends' cousin, because that character is one of the most offensive things I've ever seen put to film. He is just this exaggerated sort of autistic incel, and the way we're introduced to him, Phoebe says, this guy's my cousin and he has a giant crush on me, so we're going to get him to cash in the lottery ticket. And I was like, wait a second, have I heard that right? So I skipped back, and yeah, that's what she says.
Hey, I know. My cousin Walter could do it. And besides, he has a crush on me.
The minute you walked in.
And then this guy turns up. He doesn't speak. He's got this resting face where he's sort of like... And he starts asking John Travolta if he masturbates. And he's just like this giant, creepy guy. Like the first person Phoebe comes up with to help them is the most incompetent guy ever. And it doesn't make sense as to why they would choose him.
They refer to him throughout the film as the masturbator. The whole kind of joke here is just the fact that this guy masturbates. He's a creepy guy. He's that kind of stereotype of kind of an incel. It is kind of a stereotype. I can see why they've put it there for humor. I think it was probably one of the most humorous aspects of this film.
I completely disagree.
Despite not being too funny.
Whenever he was on the screen, I was just cringing and I was like, really? It's like a low bar of comedy. There's no attempt to try and be funny. It's just being shocking for the sake of being shocking.
She just kind of lets him die of an asthma attack.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Walt, look, Happy Days is on.
He's just there on the floor choking to death. And she's got his puffer and she's like, well, I'm not giving it to you unless you show me where the lotto ticket is.
It feels so dated. All of it feels like, same with Michael. They both feel like 80s movies. But with Michael, it was the fact it was like a wholesome adventure. This one feels like an 80s movie because of its just offensive comedy.
This film feels a lot older than it is.
I think that the director, I think that is her style because she wrote... When Harry Met Sally, I do believe. So her sort of peak was like these 80s romantic comedies. So I think that she just kept doing that sort of style and never evolved.
Despite the quality of this film being a lot worse than Michael, I think this film does show kind of an evolution from Michael in terms of becoming more mainstream, becoming more digestible.
Also called Pertwee.
There was a slight reference to pie when when John Travolta and Phoebe from Friends are in the restaurant, and the one of them says, "Can we get some pie over here, please? Can we maybe order some pie?" What is it with Nora and pie? I wonder.
That's true. It would have been interesting to see a couple more pop tires, but unfortunately, that thing didn't continue on.
It did. The guy who was onto Tim Roth, the guy who approached him when he was making his soup and was like, I think that you're stealing money from the lottery. Dale the Thug pops his tires, doesn't he? He slashes them. So there are pop tires in this movie.
Another film featuring pies and pop tires from Nora and Ephron.
She knows what she likes. Epson.
Epstein.
Good A gobbler.
Speaking of the scene where the guy comes in and he's onto them, what he says to Tim Roth's character is, I've looked, there's been 12 winners of this lottery. One of them's your ex-wife, one of them's your ex-wife's mum. But it's established that the only way that John Travolta and Phoebe from Friends can get the money is because they actually work there. They have 2 inside men.
At first, I thought he meant there was 12 other people with the same numbers as John Travolta and Phoebe Buffay, but they didn't come forward or something. I didn't really understand that.
Right, so pretty much what happens is Tim Roth gets his ex-wife and all of her family to be his beards. You know how Russ Richards and Phoebe Buffay use this masturbator man as a beard to go cash into the ticket and pull the money out for them. But the thing is, he's orchestrated all this. He surely knows that the bookies are going to figure out that something's up. So this man comes into his soup kitchen and tells him he's onto him and stuff. So he immediately gets Dale the Thug to kill him. But the thing is, this doesn't make any sense because this is a drastic oversight for Tim Roth, who's this sneaky character who knows exactly what he's doing and gets away with things. It really doesn't make sense why he would make such a blunder, and it really doesn't make sense why just this one bookie being onto him and then him deciding he's going to kill this bookie is going to remedy that problem for him. Like, surely the rest of the institute would be after him. So I don't know, it's a pretty stupid plot point.
The second half of the film, post Heist, is just everything going wrong, and you were also introduced to a new character who is this sort of incompetent, lazy cop played by Bill Pullman. I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, I think he did a good performance. I didn't feel like there was anything special about his character, really.
John Travolta.
If I'm going to take a backseat approach to judging this movie, I would say there is something endearing about it because of the fact that it's like a snapshot of what was bad about history. When people look back with rose-tinted glasses about how, everything was better in the 80s, whatever, this is just kind of an example of there's just as much trash produced in the past as there is now. I don't think I'm going to take that into account at all when I judge this film, but it's just kind of interesting to think about, to kind of integrate that into your philosophy.
Shut up, don't be so cynical.
The ending. Let's talk about the ending briefly. John Travolta is like, I can get 30 grand from this guy who's going to buy my entire shipment of snowmobiles. Dale the Thug's dead. The guy that was onto them's dead. John Travolta can kind of get out of town, get off scot-free. So he moves to, was it San Francisco he moves to?
Florida. It was Florida.
Florida, okay.
Where it hadn't snowed in 50 years.
I moved to St. Augustine, Florida, where it hasn't snowed in 50 years.
And then he gets his dream job of hosting the show, and then it sort of goes through everyone else, like What I Want starts playing, and it sort of goes through every character and sort of has a freeze frame on them, and then a bit of text saying, this is what happened in the year since we've last seen this guy. Tim Roth invests in Microsoft and gets really rich. Phoebe from Friends marries an eccentric billionaire.
She tries to divorce him and take his money, but doesn't win the court case and then becomes like kind of a stripper.
And she doesn't win the court case because she keeps pronouncing this one word wrong.
This whole ending is just kind of a big mixture of cheese and corn. The exact kind of ending you'd expect.
The big ending, though, is that all the money is claimed by the waitress at the Denny's. It was really poorly set up because we see this woman twice in these 2 diner scenes.
I don't think it was too out of place because they established that you would need kind of a pedestrian nobody to cash in the check for that whole thing to work. So I think the fact that she was introduced and there was kind of a little bit of chemistry between them, and then she wasn't shown throughout the film, it was like, well, how is he going to finally pull this off? And then they bring her back.
Well, the problem is John Travolta is, no matter how charismatic and likable his character is, he is definitely in the wrong here. He tried to commit insurance fraud. He tries to do this stealing money from the lottery, which ended up getting a lot of people killed, but he never gets his comeuppance or anything. He gets exactly what he wanted. It's essentially a film about this guy who was rich, but then he was stupid and made lots of poor decisions. And then he tries to exploit his position to get his money back. And then he gets it back, and then we're supposed to act like we're happy that he has got his dream job of presenting this show.
Yeah, I agree. That was quite poorly done. The thing is, Travolta's character, I personally didn't think he was supposed to be hated. You know, the way he the way he acts in every moment, he's childish. That's the thing. He's childish. This is why I'm comparing it to The Fanatic, because it's like he is doing terrible things, but it's like the way his character is and everything, he doesn't really seem like he's like evil. He's more stupid. Do you know what I mean?
But with The Fanatic, you can excuse it because he is disabled and he doesn't know what he's doing is wrong. But you can clearly tell that the character in this film, Russ Richards, knows what he's doing is wrong, because at first he says to Tim Roth, he's like, don't even talk about it. I don't even want to consider doing this. That's wrong.
But then he's tempted. That's the thing. Tim Roth tempts him to do this burglary thing. But then his motivation to do the lottery thing is the fact that he owes Dale the Thug $10,000, which he doesn't own. The film depicts it as just kind of a downward spiral. It's spiraling out of control, and that's where the comedy comes from. It's a comedy of errors film.
Certainly.
But I didn't feel like Travolta is supposed to be seen as evil here. It is he's kind of a fish out of water. He's put in a criminal world where he doesn't belong because of his own ego. Yeah, I see what you mean. Morally, the film shouldn't have ended with him having succeeded. Yeah. The way it should have ended is all these characters fail, but then his co-worker at the snowmobile factory should have come out on top, I think. He's shown as being a very good character. He's good to Travolta. It would have been satisfying to watch all of these people who do these very immoral things fall on their asses, end up in a bad position. Travolta goes to prison or something, and then a character like that ends up coming out on top.
Damn right we are, Suzanne.
As our Jewish friends say, enjoy.
Did you have any top quotes?
I mean, it wasn't really too quotable.
I agree. I only got one quote that I thought was Travolta-like, and it is sort of a follow-on from Gotti, where he says prick, Michael, where he says pecker. In this one, he refers to his penis as all reliable.
Old reliable.
Would have liked this film to have had more quotable lines and stuff.
There was another bit where Phoebe from Friends calls Wizard of Oz a cartoon, and John Travolta is so defensive. He's like, "It's a movie. It's a movie. It's a movie." He says it like 7 times. That performance on the behalf of John Travolta was actually quite good.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny moment. I think that one scene is probably the best scene in the film, when they're just kind of
100%.
PPAP review.
So what are our final thoughts on Lucky Numbers 2000, Ethan Proops?
It's not terrible. It's just bad. It's not so bad I hate it. It's just so bad that I didn't enjoy it.
It's the most forgettable movie in the Travoltathon so far. This one is just nothing, really. There's nothing memorable. There's nothing original. There's no good quotes. I will never remember this movie. I'll never think about Lucky Numbers again in my life.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It feels like a film I've seen 100 times before. It feels like a film I'm already bored of. I'm going to give it probably a 2, maybe a 3 at a push.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 3.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a 3, and just because of Travolta in it as well, I think. But in terms of bald Travolta heads, 50 pence.
What are the lucky numbers? How many lucky numbers in pounds are we giving to John Travolta on his PayPal?
Let's go for 5 bald Travolta heads. We'll give him £2.50 because I think for him personally, he's not the perfect Travolta in this film, but he is the best Travolta in this film. So I think that pretty much concludes our thoughts on this film.
I think so. Happy birthday, Pitbull, by the way.
Happy birthday, Pitbull.
Happy birthday, Pitbull. What are we watching next episode in case people want to watch it before the release?
We've got a treat for you next episode because not only are we watching Face Off, a Travolta and Nick Cage movie, but we are also going to be joined by the Hypothetical Boxing Podcast.
Yep, James and Ish from over there can be joining us to talk about Face Off. Come back next week for that. That should be exciting.
Okie dokie. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye. Until next time.
See you next time.
Travolta, why did you have to go? Travolta, Silence.